Daddy, please don't leave me here. I watched my father's car disappear down the empty street, my small suitcase beside me on the curb. The group home loomed behind me like a prison. I was 7 years old, and Valencia Brennan had just erased me from his life like I never existed. But what he didn't know, what nobody knew, was that 3 men had been watching. 3 men who'd made a promise to my mother before she died. 3 men who would burn the world down before they let me suffer another day. This is the story of how I went from abandoned to untouchable. If you want to see what happens when powerful men keep their promises, hit that subscribe button for Ebony and Pearl stories. Trust me, you'll want to see how this ends. My mother died on a Tuesday. I remember because Tuesdays were our pancake days. She made them from scratch, always adding chocolate chips in the shape of my initials. VB Valencia Brennan. She said my name meant brave, and I needed to remember that when things got hard. I didn't know how hard things would get. Valencia, baby, come here. Mom's voice was barely a whisper. The hospital room smelled like antiseptic and dying flowers. At 6 years old, I knew what dying looked like. I'd watched it happen slowly over 8 months. I climbed onto her bed carefully, avoiding the tubes and wires. I need you to do something for me, she said, pressing something into my palm. It was a business card, sleek and black with silver Korean characters embossed on one side. On the back, 3 names were handwritten: Eo Jin-sung, Tae Won-shik, Jo Hyun-woo. If anything happens to you, if your daddy can't take care of you, you call this number. Promise me. But Daddy loves me, I said, even though I'd noticed how he barely visited anymore. How he flinched when Mom mentioned my name in front of his new girlfriend, Rebecca. Mom's smile was sad. Your daddy loves the idea of being a good man. But when it gets hard, when people are watching, baby, just promise me you'll call. Y promise, mga. Say it 100 times so you don't forget.
So I did.
Sitting in that hospital bed with my dying mother, I promised 100 times that I would call those names if I needed help. I still remember the taste of each promise, bitter like medicine, necessary like breathing. Mom died 3 days later. Valencia Brennan wore a black suit to the funeral and held Rebecca's hand the entire time. I wore the dress Mom had picked out before she got too sick to shop. It was purple, my favorite color. Rebecca told me I looked presentable. For the first year, I tried. God, I tried so hard. I made straight A's because Dad used to brag about being top of his class. I kept my room spotless because Rebecca said she couldn't stand mess. I learned to be quiet during their dinner parties, invisible during their arguments, and small enough to fit into the corners of a house that didn't want me. Valencia, did you eat my yogurt? Rebecca's voice cut through the morning like a knife.
No, ma'am.
I had cereal. Don't lie to me. There were 2 cups yesterday, and now there's 1. Maybe Dad. Your father doesn't eat yogurt. You know what? Just forget it. But this is exactly what your mother did, taking things that don't belong to her. I bit my tongue so hard I tasted blood. Mom had never stolen anything in her life. But Rebecca rewrote history like she was erasing Mom with every cruel word. Dad just read his newspaper, pretending not to hear. I started making my own promises then. Small ones at first. If I get all A's this semester, Dad will notice me. If I win the art contest, he'll hang my picture on the fridge. If I'm good enough, quiet enough, perfect enough, maybe he'll love me the way he used to love Mom. I made 99 promises to myself. I broke every single one. The final promise happened on my 7th birthday. Rebecca had convinced Dad to take her daughter, Madison, to an amusement park. Valencia's too young for the big rides anyway, she'd said. She can stay home. I'd baked myself a small cupcake using quarters I'd saved from lunch money. 1 candle, 1 wish. I wished for my father to come home and realize he'd forgotten. He came home at midnight. Madison was chattering about cotton candy and roller coasters. Dad was laughing, actually laughing, in a way I hadn't heard since Mom died. He walked right past my room without stopping. The cupcake sat on my desk, candle melted into the frosting, wax and wishes ruined together. That's when I made promise number 100. If this doesn't change, I'll call the number. 3 months later, things got worse. Isaiah, we need to talk about Valencia. Rebecca's voice carried through the walls of our too-small house. I pressed my ear against my bedroom door, heart hammering. What about her? She's difficult. Madison's starting to notice the tension. And honestly, with your promotion coming up, do you really want the complication of explaining your situation? My situation? His voice was tight. You know what I mean. The optics aren't great. Biracial child, dead girlfriend, new family. People talk. Silence. The kind that crushes. There are excellent boarding schools. Or group homes, if that's too expensive. She'd be with other kids like her. Rebecca, that's...
What?
Practical? Isaiah, you're about to make partner. Do you want to drag a child who looks nothing like you to company events? Do you want to answer questions about her mother? More silence. I'll look into it, he finally said. I stopped breathing. That night, I pulled out the black business card I kept hidden in my mom's old jewelry box. The silver Korean characters seemed to shimmer in the moonlight. I traced the 3 names my mother had made me memorize.
Aljin Shung,
Tae Won-shik.
Ju Hyun-woo.
But I wasn't ready yet. Because as much as it hurt, some part of me still believed my father would choose me. I was wrong. 2 weeks later, Isaiah Brennan drove me to Bright Futures Group home and told me it was temporary. Just until I get settled with a new job, sweetheart. You understand, right? I understood that he was lying. I understood that Rebecca had won. I understood that my mother had been right about everything. I watched his car disappear down the street, my small purple suitcase beside me, and I pulled out the card. My hands shook as I dialed the number. It rang once. Valencia Brennan. A deep voice answered in perfect English with a slight Korean accent. We've been waiting for your call. Some people spend their whole lives waiting for someone to choose them. If you know what that feels like, drop a comment below. And if you want to see who Valencia called and why they'd been waiting, you better stick around. The man who answered the phone didn't ask if I was okay. He didn't ask where I was or why I was crying. He said, Valencia, listen to me carefully. Do not go inside that building. Do you understand? Walk to the corner. We'll be there in 7 minutes. How do you? Your mother made us promise to always know where you are.
Walk. Now.
I grabbed my suitcase and ran. 6 minutes and 43 seconds later, a black Mercedes S-Class pulled up to the corner. The back door opened, and I saw him for the first time.
Aljin Shung.
He looked like he'd stepped out of a Korean drama, sharp jawline, styled dark hair, designer suit that probably cost more than a year of my father's salary.
But it was his eyes that stopped me.
Dark, intense, and looking at me like I was the only person in the world who mattered. Valencia Brennan, he said softly. Your mother showed us pictures, but they didn't do justice. You look just like her. I burst into tears. Jin-sung didn't hesitate. He stepped out of the car, crouched down to my level, and let me cry into his expensive suit jacket. He smelled like cologne and something else, safety maybe. Something I hadn't felt in months. I've got you now, he murmured in Korean, then English. I've got you, little one. Nobody's ever going to leave you on a street corner again. The drive to their headquarters was silent except for my hiccuping sobs. Jin-sung kept one hand on my shoulder, steady and warm, while he made rapid-fire calls in Korean on his phone. I caught a few words. Contact. Lawyers. Immediately, the father. We pulled up to a building in downtown Seoul's business district. Not a house. Not an apartment. A full-glass skyscraper with Korean characters I couldn't read blazing across the top. You own this, I whispered. Jin Sung's smile was slight. This is just the office. Wait until you see home. The elevator went up. And up. And up. Top floor. The penthouse doors opened to reveal two more men. Tae Won-shik stood by the window, arms crossed, looking like he could break someone in half without wrinkling his tailored shirt. He was broader than Jin Sung, with tattooed hands and a scar running through his left eyebrow. He looked dangerous until he saw me, and his entire face softened. Aegu, he breathed, switching to Korean before catching himself. She's so small. Chu Hyunwoo was younger than both of them, maybe early 30s, with wireframe glasses and hands that moved restlessly like he was itching to fix something. He was the first to approach, kneeling down to my eye level.
Valencia, I'm Huinvu.
Are you hurt? I shook my head. Are you hungry? I nodded. Good. I make the best jjajangmyeon in Seoul.
Come.
The apartment, penthouse, mansion, whatever it was, looked like something from a magazine. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, furniture that looked expensive and untouchable, art on the walls that probably cost more than my entire existence. But Hyunwoo led me to the kitchen, sat me on a stool, and started cooking like it was the most normal thing in the world. Your mother, Jin Sung said quietly, sitting beside me, was very special to us. How did you know her? The three men exchanged looks. Won-shik answered, his English heavily accented but clear. We met when we were nobody. When Korea didn't want us and America didn't trust us. Your mother, she saw us as people. Fed us when we were hungry. Hid us when we were hunted. Believed in us when we were building our empire from nothing. Empire? Jin Sung's smile didn't reach his eyes. We're businessmen, Valencia. Import, export, security, investments. Some people call us the Yongsan Three. Others call us less flattering names. But what matters is that we made your mother a promise. If anything happened to her, we would protect you like our own blood. Why didn't you come before? The question burst out before I could stop it. If you knew where I was, if you were watching, why did you let me stay there? Why did you let him? My voice cracked. The temperature in the room dropped. Won-shik's fists clenched. Hyunwoo's smile vanished. Jin Sung's expression went cold and empty. Because, Jin Sung said carefully, your mother's last wish was that you have a chance at a normal life. With your father, with family, she hoped. He paused. She hoped Isaiah Brennan would be the man she once believed he was. She made us promise to wait.
To watch.
To only intervene if he failed you. He left me on a curb. Yes. Jin Sung's voice was soft and deadly.
He did.
And now we don't have to wait anymore. Hyunwoo placed a bowl of black bean noodles in front of me.
Eat.
Then we'll talk about what happens next. I ate. God, I ate like I'd been starving, which, emotionally, I had been. The noodles were rich and savory and warm, and somewhere between the second and third bite, I started crying again. These men, these strangers who weren't strangers, had kept their promise to my dead mother. They'd watched over me for a year, waiting for permission to save me. What happens now? Asked after I'd finished eating. Jin Sung pulled out a tablet and turned it toward me. Legal documents filled the screen. We've already filed emergency custody papers. Your father will be notified tomorrow. He'll have the option to fight it or sign over guardianship. Will he fight? The three men looked at each other again. Won-shik was the one who answered, brutal and honest. No, little flower. Men like him don't fight for things that complicate their lives. He was right. Isaiah Brennan signed the papers, without even requesting a meeting. 1 week after he abandoned me, I was legally under the guardianship of 3 Korean men the media called the most powerful and dangerous businessmen in Seoul. I called them something else. I called them family. The first month was an adjustment. They cleared out an entire wing of the penthouse for me. Bedroom bigger than my father's entire house. A bathroom with a soaking tub. A walk-in closet that echoed when I walked through it. Too much? Hyunwoo asked nervously. It's perfect, I whispered. They hired a tutor who spoke both English and Korean. Within 3 months, I was conversational. Within 6, I was fluent. The language became my armor, my secret identity, my way of understanding the world I'd been adopted into. Because, make no mistake, this world was different. Men in expensive suits came and went at odd hours. Phone calls happened in hushed Korean that stopped when I entered the room. Sometimes one chick came home with bruised knuckles he'd wave off as just business. But they never let that darkness touch me. Jin-sung taught me calligraphy and strategy, treating me like a princess and a chess piece all at once. One chick taught me taekwondo and how to read people's intentions in their body language. Hyunwoo taught me coding and cooking, 2 skills he insisted were equally important for survival. You need to know how to feed yourself and defend yourself digitally, he'd say. Everything else is just details. I learned. I absorbed. I transformed. The scared 7-year-old girl who'd been left on a curb became someone new. Someone stronger. Someone who understood that family wasn't about blood. It was about who showed up when the world turned its back on you. But the past has a way of coming back. 18 months after Isaiah Brennan signed me away, he showed up at the penthouse. I was 9 years old, practicing Korean with Hyunwoo in the kitchen, when the security buzzer rang. Jin-sung answered, his face going hard. Valencia, go to your room. Who is it?
Now.
I went, but I listened at the door. You can't just take my daughter and disappear to Korea. The daughter you abandoned? Jin-sung's voice was ice. The child you left at a group home like unwanted luggage? That daughter? I was going through a difficult time. Rebecca and I had issues, but we've worked through them. I want Valencia back. Silence. Then laughter. Cold, cruel laughter from all 3 men. You want her back, one chick repeated slowly. After 18 months. After you signed legal documents. After you didn't call once, didn't send one birthday card, didn't ask if she was alive or dead. You want her back. I'm her father. You're a sperm donor. Hyunwoo cut in, his usually gentle voice sharp. And not even a particularly good one. You know what Valencia calls us? You know what name she uses when she talks about family? My heart hammered. I knew what I called them in private. The names had slipped out naturally, without permission, without planning. She calls one chick Appa, Hyunwoo continued. She calls Jin-sung Big Uncle. She calls me Hyuni. She has a family, and you're not part of it. I have legal rights. You signed them away. Jin-sung's voice dropped to a whisper I had to strain to hear. But let's say you want to fight this. Let's say you want to drag a 9-year-old child through court battles and custody hearings. Let me be very clear about what happens then. A pause. I will bury you, Isaiah Brennan. I will expose every shady business deal, every tax evasion, every lie you've told to build your career. I will make sure Rebecca's family knows exactly what kind of man she married. I will ensure that when people Google your name, the first result is father who abandoned mixed-race daughter. I will end you in every way that matters. Do you understand? Silence. Get out of my building. If you contact Valencia again, if you come within 100 meters of her school, if you so much as think about disrupting her life, you'll discover why people call us the Yongsan Three. And trust me, you don't want that education. I heard footsteps. The elevator ding. Silence. Then Jin-sung's voice softer. Valencia, you can come out now. I opened the door. All 3 men looked at me with something like concern. Did you mean it? I asked. About what I call you? One chick crouched down, his scarred face gentle. Little flower, you can call us anything you want. But I won't lie, hearing you say Appa for the first time made me happier than any business deal I've ever closed. I ran to him. To all of them. And for the first time since my mother died, I felt like I had a family again. If you've ever had someone fight for you when you couldn't fight for yourself, hit that like button. And if you want to know what happened when Valencia's past came back to haunt her 5 years later. 5 years passed like a dream. I turned 14 in the penthouse, surrounded by more love than I'd known in my entire life. The scared little girl who'd clutched a business card on a street corner had become fluent in Korean and English, trained in Taekwondo and coding, educated by private tutors and real-world experience. The media called me the Yongsan Princess. I called myself lucky. But luck has a price, and I was about to learn it. Valencia, we need to talk. Jin Sung's voice was serious in a way that made my stomach drop. It was Sunday morning, and the three of them sat in the living room with expressions that screamed family meeting. I sat down carefully. What happened? Hyun-woo pulled up something on his tablet. A news article. Korean characters I'd learned to read too well. Yongsan Three under federal investigation. Money laundering, extortion, racketeering. Is it true? Jin Sung didn't insult me with a lie.
Some of it.
Our business exists in gray areas, Valencia. We've built an empire that protects people the law ignores. But that means sometimes we operate outside the law. Are you going to jail?
No.
Won-shik's voice was absolute. We've prepared for this. We have lawyers, contingencies, political connections. But the investigation means increased scrutiny. On us. On our holdings. On you. The weight of that settled over me. Someone leaked your existence to the press, Hyun-woo said quietly. Not just as our ward. They're digging into your background. Your father. Your mother. Why 3 Korean businessmen have a Black American teenager living with them. Let them dig, I said. I'm not ashamed. We know. Jin Sung's smile was proud and sad. But the court of public opinion doesn't care about truth. They'll write stories. Make assumptions. Some will call you our victim. Others will call you our accomplice. Either way, you become a target. So what do? We give you a choice, Won-shik said. We can send you to Switzerland. Private boarding school, full security, completely separate from our business. You'd be safe. Protected. Normal. The word normal hit like a slap. Or,
I asked.
Or you stay, Jin Sung said simply. You stay, and you learn what it really means to be part of this family. Not just the daughter we protect, but the heir we're preparing. You learn the business, all of it, the legal and the less legal, the power and the cost. You become untouchable not because you're hidden, but because you're undeniable. I was 14 years old, and they were offering me a choice that would define my entire life. If I stay, can I still help people? Like Mom did? The 3 men exchanged one of their looks. Your mother, Jin Sung said carefully, had a vision that we never fully understood until now. She wanted to build something that served the people who fall through society's cracks. We built an empire. But you, Valencia, you could build something better. Something that has power and purpose. Then I stay. Won-shik shook his head. Little flower, you don't understand what you're choosing. The scrutiny, the danger, the weight. I was left on a street corner by my own father. I interrupted. I know about danger. I know about weight. What I didn't know until you 3 was what family actually means. So if staying means I face whatever's coming with you instead of running away to be normal, then I stay. I choose you. The way you chose me. Hyun-woo's eyes were wet. Won-shik cleared his throat roughly. Jin Sung just nodded, like he'd expected nothing less. Then we start your real education tomorrow, Jin Sung said. They kept their word. At 14, I learned that the Yongsan Three weren't just businessmen. They were power brokers who controlled import and export through connections that spanned from Seoul to Los Angeles. They protected Korean communities that police ignored. They funded businesses that banks rejected. They operated in the shadows because the light had never served people who looked like them. I also learned that some of their methods were questionable. This is a protection payment, Jin Sung explained, showing me the books. Restaurant owners pay us. We ensure no one bothers them.
No chaquedons, no vandalismo, no acidentes.
That's extortion. That's survival. The police don't protect Koreatown.
We do.
Is it ideal?
No.
Is it necessary? Asked the restaurant owners who were burned out before we stepped in. I struggled with the morality, but I also saw the results. I saw the community centers they funded, the scholarships they provided, the families they'd helped relocate when gang violence threatened their children, the women they'd protected from abusive partners when the law moved too slow. The Yongsan Three were criminals. They were also the only things standing between vulnerable people and total destruction. The world isn't clean, Valencia, one chick told me during a training session. It's messy and complicated and often cruel. You can be pure and powerless, or you can be gray and effective. Your mother understood that. She chose effective. At 15, I made my first real contribution. Hyunwoo had been working on a digital security system for the organization, but it was vulnerable to the kind of federal surveillance they were facing. I'd been learning code since I was 9, and I had an idea. What if we decentralized it? I suggested. Blockchain-based, encrypted, with no central server they can seize? Hyunwoo stared at me. How old are you again? Old enough to know that your current system is going to get you caught. I was right. 3 months later, my security system kept their entire network invisible during a federal raid. The investigators found nothing. Nothing they could use anyway. Jin Sung gave me my first real responsibility after that, managing their digital footprint. At 16, I saved my first life. A Korean teenager came to our office, desperate and terrified. Her name was Minji, and her boyfriend had gotten involved with a rival gang. They wanted her dead as leverage. We can't go to the police, her mother begged in Korean. They'll deport us.
Please.
I have nothing to offer, but please. One chick looked at me. What do you think, little flower? It was a test. I knew it, but it was also a real decision that would impact real lives. We help, I said firmly, and we don't charge. Because that's what family does for family, and Koreatown is our family. 3 days later, the rival gang's leadership received a message. Touch Minji, and you touch the Yongsan Three. The boyfriend was extracted, relocated, and given a choice, leave that life or be left behind. He chose wisely. Minji's mother brought us homemade kimchi for a month straight. It was the best payment we ever received. But success breeds attention, and attention brings threats. 2 weeks before my 17th birthday, everything changed. I was walking home from school. They'd finally let me attend a private academy instead of private tutoring, when the car pulled up. 3 men, not Korean, not friendly. Valencia Brennan. I ran. I'd been training with one chick for years. I knew how to fight, how to escape, how to survive. But 3 grown men versus 1 teenage girl, even a trained one, isn't a fair fight. They caught me in an alley. One grabbed my arm. I broke his nose with an elbow strike one chick had drilled into me 1,000 times. The second one grabbed me from behind. I dropped my weight, slipped low, and kicked his knee in a direction knees don't bend. The third one pulled a knife. Your daddy sent us a message, he sneered. We're sending one back. Then he was on the ground, one chick standing over him with murder in his eyes. Jin Sung appeared from the other end of the alley, phone in hand, already calling cleanup. Hyunwoo was checking me for injuries, his hands shaking. I'm okay, I said.
I'm okay. Hunye.
They didn't. They touched you. One chick's voice was dead calm, which was worse than anger. They put their hands on our daughter. That was the first time he'd called me daughter out loud. Who sent them? I asked. Jin Sung's expression was granite. Someone who wants to remind us that we're vulnerable. That no matter how powerful we become, they can hurt us through you. So, what do? We remind them, Jin Sung said quietly, that hurting you is the last mistake they'll ever make. I didn't ask what happened to the men who grabbed me. I didn't need to. But 3 days later, a rival organization's entire leadership structure collapsed after what the news called coordinated international law enforcement action. The Yongsan Three didn't take credit. They didn't need to. The message was clear. Valencia Brennan was untouchable. But that protection came with a realization that kept me up at night. I wasn't just the girl they'd saved anymore. I was leverage, a weakness, a target. I want to learn everything, I told them that night. Not just coding and strategy. Everything. Defense, negotiation, psychology, finance. If I'm going to be your weakness, I need to become your strength. Jin Sung studied me for a long moment. You're 17 years old, Valencia. And I've been part of this world for 10 years. Stop protecting me from what I already know. Train me.
Teach me.
Let me be what Mom wanted, someone who has power and uses it to help people. But to do that, I need to be powerful enough that no one can use me to hurt you. One chick laughed, rough and proud. She sounds like you, Jin Sung. Remember when you told the Yakuza bosses the same thing? I remember they tried to kill me. And now they work for you. One chick turned to me. Okay, little flower. You want to learn everything? We teach you everything. But understand, this path, once you're on it, there's no going back to normal. Normal is overrated, I said. And besides, I was never going to be normal anyway. I'm a black girl raised by Korean mafia bosses. Normal left the building a long time ago. Hyun-woo snorted. She's not wrong.
So they taught me.
Strategy from Jin Sung. Combat from one chick. Technology from Hyun-woo. And from all three, the most important lesson, power means nothing if you don't know why you're wielding it. Your mother, Jin Sung told me on my 18th birthday, used to say that strength without purpose is just violence. But purpose without strength is just philosophy. You need both, Valencia. The power to act and the wisdom to know when. I thought I understood. I was about to learn exactly what that meant. If you've ever had to choose between safety and purpose, drop a comment about what you chose. And if you want to see how Valencia's training got put to the ultimate test, the letter arrived on a Tuesday. Tuesdays still made me think of pancakes and my mother's last words. 10 years later, and some wounds stay fresh. But this Tuesday brought something different, a handwritten letter from Valencia Brennan. Jin Sung found it first. I watched him read it, his expression shifting from cold indifference to something darker. What is it?
I asked.
He handed it to me without a word.
Dear Valencia,
I know I have no right to contact you. I know I failed you in every way a father can fail a child. But I'm asking, begging, for a chance to explain, to apologize, to show you that I'm not the man who left you on that curb. Rebecca and I divorced 3 years ago. I've been in therapy. I've done the work to understand how I let fear and cowardice guide my choices. I was wrong about everything.
I'm dying, Valencia.
Pancreatic cancer, stage 4. The doctors give me 6 months, maybe less. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I just want to see you once. To tell you the truth about your mother, about me, about why I failed so spectacularly. Please. I know I don't deserve it. But if you have any mercy in your heart, grant me 1 hour. That's all I'm asking. Your father, Valencia Brennan. I read it twice, then a third time. He's lying. One chick said flatly. It's a manipulation tactic. Maybe, I said. Or maybe he's actually dying and wants to clear his conscience before he goes. You don't owe him anything, Hyunwoo added. Not your time, not your energy, not your forgiveness. He made his choices. I know. I set the letter down. But I need to understand something. I need to know why. Not for him, for me. Because I've built my whole life on the foundation of knowing my father abandoned me. If there's more to that story, I need to hear it. Even if it's just more proof that he's exactly who I thought he was. Jin-sung studied me with those sharp eyes that miss nothing. You've made up your mind. I want to see him. Once. On our terms, our territory, our control. Then that's what we'll do. 2 weeks later, Valencia Brennan walked into the Yongsan Three headquarters, flanked by security that made him look like a prisoner being escorted to sentencing. He'd aged 20 years in the decade since I'd seen him. Gray hair, sunken eyes, the kind of thinness that comes from illness, not diet. He looked like a man being consumed from the inside out. Maybe he was. I met him in Jin-sung's office, the same place where he'd been threatened a decade ago.
Poetic, maybe.
Or just efficient. The three men stood behind me like sentinels. I'd asked them to stay. Whatever Isaiah had to say, I wanted witnesses. Valencia. His voice cracked. My God, you're beautiful. I didn't agree to this meeting for compliments. He flinched.
No.
No, of course not. I needed to see you. To see that you're okay. I'm better than okay. No thanks to you. I know, and he stopped, breathed. Can we sit? I nodded. We sat across from each other, a desk between us like a barrier protecting me from the past. Your mother and I, he began. We met in college. She was everything I wasn't. Confident, brilliant, compassionate. I fell in love with her immediately. But I was also terrified of what my family would think. What my future colleagues would think. What society would think about a black man with a white woman. Mom wasn't white, I interrupted. She was biracial. Korean mother, white father. Isaiah's face crumpled. I know, and that's part of what I need to tell you. I never told anyone about her background. I let people assume. I let Rebecca assume. Because it was easier than explaining the complexity. One chick made a disgusted sound behind me. When your mother got pregnant, Isaiah continued, I panicked. We weren't married. I was about to start law school. My family had expectations. So I convinced her that we should keep it quiet, that we'd figure it out after I graduated. But she got sick. And I wasn't there. I was with Rebecca, building the life I thought I was supposed to want. And your mother, she never told me how bad it was. Not until it was too late. She protected you even when you didn't deserve it. Yes. His voice was barely a whisper. And when she died, I was left with you. Beautiful, perfect you. And all I could see was my failure. Every time I looked at you, I saw the woman I loved and abandoned. The future I destroyed. The cowardice that defined me. I felt tears on my cheeks but didn't wipe them away. So you abandoned me too. I did. And I've regretted it every single day since. Therapy helped me understand that I was repeating my father's patterns. He left my mother when things got hard. But understanding doesn't excuse. Nothing excuses what I did to you. Why now? I asked. Why, after 10 years, do you suddenly care? Because I'm dying, he said simply. And I realize that I'm about to meet your mother again, wherever we go after this. And I need to be able to look her in the eye and tell her that I at least tried to apologize to our daughter. That I owned what I did. That I didn't die a complete coward. Jin-sung spoke for the first time. You want absolution.
No.
Isaiah looked at him directly. I want her to know the truth. That she wasn't abandoned because she was unlovable. She was abandoned because I was incapable of love. The flaw was mine, not hers. And I need her to know that before I die, so she doesn't carry my failure as her burden. Silence filled the room. There's something else, Isaiah said, pulling out an envelope. Your mother left this with my lawyer. Instructions to give it to you when you turned 18, or if something happened to me, whichever came first. My hands shook as I took it. Mom's handwriting. My name in her careful script. I'll leave you to read it in private, Isaiah said, standing. I don't expect forgiveness, Valencia. I don't even deserve it. But I hope you can forgive yourself for any burden you've carried because of my choices. You deserved better. You always did.
He walked to the door, then paused.
They're good men, he said, nodding to Jin-sung, Won-shik, and Hyunwoo. They gave you what I couldn't. I'm grateful for that, even if I have no right to be. Then he was gone. I stared at the envelope, afraid to open it, afraid of what truths it might contain. Do you want us to stay? Hyunwoo asked gently. Please. I opened it with shaking hands. My dearest Valencia, if you're reading this, I'm gone. I'm so sorry I couldn't stay longer, couldn't protect you myself, couldn't see the woman you'll become. But I need you to know some things. Isaiah loved me. He did, in his own broken way. But he loved the idea of a safe, acceptable life more. I don't blame him for that. Society teaches us that fitting in is survival. But I chose differently. I chose you. Always you. I've arranged for Jin-sung, Won-shik, and Hyunwoo to be your guardians if Isaiah fails you. These men saved my life when I was young and lost in soul. They protected me when others would have used me. They're not perfect. They operate in shadows and make choices that many would judge. But they're loyal, and they keep their promises, and they'll love you as fiercely as I do. Valencia, you're going to face a world that doesn't know what to do with you. Too black for some spaces, too Korean for others, too American here, too foreign there. You'll never quite fit anywhere. But that's your power, baby. You get to define yourself. You get to build bridges where others build walls. Use the gifts these men will give you: strength, strategy, resources. But never forget the gift I'm giving you: compassion. The world needs people who have power and choose kindness. People who could destroy, but choose to build. That's who I raised you to be. I love you beyond measure, beyond time, beyond death itself. Live fiercely, my brave girl. Live freely. And when you're ready, forgive your father. Not for him, for you. Anger is a chain, and I didn't raise you to be bound by anyone else's failures. Always.
Mom.
I sobbed. Deep, wrenching sobs that I'd been holding back for 10 years. Won-shik pulled me into his arms, and I cried into his shoulder while Jin-sung's hand steadied my back and Hyunwoo stroked my hair. She knew. I gasped between sobs. She knew everything. Who I'd become, what I'd face, how to survive it. She knew. She was brilliant, Jin-sung said softly. And she loved you enough to plan for every possibility. I pulled back, wiping my face. I need to see him again. Isaiah. One more time. Are you sure? Won-shik asked. Mom said to forgive him. Not for him, for me. And she was right about everything else. I need to try. We found Isaiah at the hospital where he was receiving treatment. He looked surprised to see me, hopeful and terrified at once. I read Mom's letter. I said without preamble. She told me to forgive you. So I'm going to try. Not because you deserve it, but because holding on to anger gives you power over my life. And you've had enough of that already. Isaiah's eyes filled with tears. I forgive the scared young man who made terrible choices, I continued. I forgive the father who couldn't face his own failures. But I don't forget. And I don't want a relationship. You asked for an hour. You got it. This is closure, not reconciliation. Do you understand? I understand. He smiled through tears. Thank you, Valencia, for being better than I ever was. Your mother would be so proud. She is, I said. I feel it every day. I left before I could change my mind, before pity could become something more complicated. Outside the hospital, Jin-sung waited with the car. How do you feel? He asked. Lighter, I said honestly. Like I set down something heavy I didn't realize I was carrying. Good. Because we have work to do. What kind of work? His smile was sharp and proud. The kind your mother dreamed of. We're going to build something, Valencia. An organization that has the power of the Yongsan Three, but the purpose your mother always wanted. Legal advocacy, community protection, resources for people who fall through the cracks. We'll operate in the light and the shadows. And you're going to lead it. Me? You're 18 now. Legally an adult. And you've been training for this your entire life. The question is, are you ready? I thought about the little girl on the curb, the teenager learning to fight, the young woman reading her mother's final letter. Yes, I said. I'm ready. If you've ever had to forgive someone who hurt you, not for them but for yourself, share your story in the comments. And if you want to see what Valencia built with the power she'd been given. 3 years later, I stood in front of the Phoenix Foundation headquarters, glass and steel rising 20 floors above Koreatown, modern and unapologetic. The name was my choice. Phoenix, rising from ashes, reborn through fire. Poetic maybe, but accurate. Nervous, one chick asked, adjusting his tie. At 47, he looked distinguished in his tailored suit, the scar through his eyebrow somehow adding gravitas instead of menace. Terrified, I admitted. What if they don't take me seriously? I'm 21, black, a woman, and I'm about to tell a room full of city officials how to do their jobs. Then you'll be exactly like your mother, Jin-sung said, appearing beside us with Hyun-woo in tow. She was 23 when she stood in front of the Korean Business Association and told them their immigration legal fund was structured inefficiently. They laughed. Then she showed them a better model, implemented it, and saved 40 families from deportation in the first year. I never heard that story. We have hundreds more, Hyun-woo said with a grin. Your mom was a force of nature. You inherited that. The press conference was scheduled for 2 o'clock. We were announcing the Phoenix Foundation's first major initiative, a legal defense fund and community center combining the resources of the Yongsan Three's legitimate businesses with crowdfunding, pro bono legal work, and political advocacy. It was everything my mother had dreamed of. Everything I'd spent 3 years building. The last 3 years had been a transformation. I'd graduated early from university with degrees in international business and computer science. I'd completed an accelerated legal studies program. I'd trained with the best negotiators, studied under political strategists, and learned to move through spaces of power like I belonged there. Because I did. The Phoenix Foundation started small, helping families fight deportation, providing legal aid for small business owners facing regulatory harassment, creating scholarship programs for kids who looked like me and felt like they didn't fit anywhere. But we grew. We grew because we filled a gap that governments ignored and charities couldn't reach. We had the resources of a major organization and the agility of a street-level operation. We operated legally, transparently, and effectively. And we were backed by the Yongsan Three, who'd spent the last decade slowly legitimizing their empire. Jin-sung now ran one of the largest import-export companies in Asia, completely legal and devastatingly profitable. One chick had transformed his security operation into a corporate protection firm that Fortune 500 companies hired. Hyun-woo's tech innovations were being used in hospitals and construction sites across 3 continents. They'd kept their promise to my mother. They'd protected me, raised me, and helped me build something that mattered. The press conference went better than I dared hope. I stood at the podium, looking out at journalists, city officials, community leaders, and felt my mother's presence like a warm hand on my shoulder. The Phoenix Foundation exists because I was a child in need and the system failed me, I began. But I was also lucky. I had people who kept their promises, who saw potential instead of problems, who gave me power and taught me to use it wisely. I told them a version of my story, sanitized, appropriate, but true, abandoned by my father, raised by 3 men who'd promised my mother they'd protect me, transformed from victim to advocate. We're here to be that safety net for others, I continued. For the kids aging out of foster care with nowhere to go. For the families facing deportation because of paperwork errors. For the small business owners crushed by regulations they can't navigate. For everyone who falls through the cracks because they don't fit neatly into the boxes society creates. The questions came fast. How is this different from existing nonprofits? We combine legal advocacy with direct resource provision. We don't just fight your case, we help you rebuild after. What's your success rate? 87% of our legal cases result in favorable outcomes. 100% of our clients receive support regardless of case outcome. What about accusations that the Yongsan Three are using this as a front for money laundering? I'd been waiting for that one. The Phoenix Foundation is independently audited quarterly. Our finances are transparent and available for public review. Yes, we're funded partially by the Yongsan Three's legitimate business ventures. We're also funded by private donations, grants, and fundraising. If you have specific concerns about financial irregularities, I invite you to examine our books. You'll find them boring and legal, I promise. Laughter. The tension broke. The coverage was overwhelmingly positive. By the end of the week, we'd received donation inquiries from 3 major philanthropic organizations and interview requests from international media. The Phoenix Foundation was real, undeniable, successful. But success brings new challenges. 2 months after the press conference, I received a message that made my blood run cold. Valencia Brennan, Isaiah's ex-wife, had filed a lawsuit claiming I'd manipulated Isaiah in his final months, coercing him into changing his will to benefit the Phoenix Foundation. It was absurd. Isaiah had left his modest estate to cancer research and a small scholarship fund in my mother's name. The Phoenix Foundation received nothing. But the lawsuit wasn't about money. It was about destroying my credibility. She's threatened by you, Jin Sung explained, reviewing the legal documents. You've built something real. Something that makes her look small and petty by comparison. So, she's trying to tear you down before you get too powerful. Can she win?
No.
But she can make noise. And noise creates doubt. I thought about my options. The old me, the scared girl on the curb, would have panicked. But I wasn't her anymore. Let her sue, I said. We'll defend it publicly, transparently, and we'll win. And when we do, we'll use the publicity to launch our next initiative, legal defense for people facing frivolous lawsuits designed to silence them. Hyunwoo grinned. You're learning. The lawsuit lasted 6 months. Every court appearance, every filing, every piece of evidence was made public. The media ate it up. Black woman versus white ex-wife. Immigrant success versus entitled privilege. New money versus old resentment. Rebecca's case fell apart under scrutiny. Isaiah's lawyer testified that the will had been created years before Isaiah's cancer diagnosis. Financial records showed the Phoenix Foundation had never solicited or received funds from Isaiah. Character witnesses, including 3 judges, 2 congresspeople, and a dozen community leaders, testified to my integrity. The judge dismissed the case with prejudice, meaning Rebecca couldn't refile. But the real victory came after. Donations to the Phoenix Foundation tripled. We received pro bono legal support from 5 major law firms. Politicians who'd been cautiously supportive became actively collaborative. Rebecca had tried to destroy me and instead made me untouchable. "Your mother would have loved this," one chick said, watching the news coverage of our victory. "She always said the best revenge was building something so beautiful that your enemies couldn't look away." "This isn't revenge," I corrected. "It's justice. There's a difference." "There is," Yongsan agreed. "And you understand that difference. That's why you're going to change things." By my 22nd birthday, the Phoenix Foundation operated in 12 cities across 5 countries. We'd helped over 3,000 families, prevented 47 deportations, saved 19 small businesses, and created educational programs that served 5,000 kids. My mother's vision, amplified by the Yongsan Three's resources, transformed by my generation's understanding of how to wield power with purpose. The night of our 2nd anniversary gala, I stood on the rooftop of our headquarters, looking out over Koreatown's lights. Yongsan found me there. "Hiding from your own party?" "Taking a moment," I said. "Thinking about how far we've come." "Thinking about your mother?" "Always." I turned to face him. "Yongsan, can I ask you something? The truth this time." "I've never lied to you, Valencia. But you've protected me from certain truths." "I know that. I'm not a child anymore. I need to know, what exactly did you promise my mother?" He was quiet for a long moment, city sounds filling the silence. "We promised to protect you," he said finally. "To raise you as our own if Isaiah failed. To give you the resources and education to choose your own path. And if you chose to follow in your mother's footsteps, to support that choice even if it meant risking everything we'd built." That's a heavy promise. It was an easy one to make. Your mother saved our lives, Valencia. Not metaphorically, literally. We were 3 immigrant kids with nothing, targeted by gangs, ignored by police, invisible to the system. She saw us, fed us, hid us when we needed hiding, believed in us when we were building an empire from illegal scraps. Without her, we'd be dead or in prison. This. He gestured to the city. Everything we built because she gave us a foundation to stand on. So you did this out of debt? We did this out of love, he corrected. Debt implies obligation. This was choice. We chose you, Valencia. The same way you chose us when you could have gone to that boarding school in Switzerland. The same way you choose us every day by building something that makes us proud instead of ashamed of our past. I hugged him. This man who'd been my guardian, my teacher, my father in every way that mattered. Thank you, I whispered, for keeping your promises, for making Mom's vision real, for loving me when my own father couldn't. Valencia, you made it easy. You always have. We stood there for a while, 2 people bound by promises made to a woman who'd understood that family isn't about blood. It's about who shows up when the world turns its back. Eventually, we rejoined the party. One chick was entertaining donors with stories that were probably 70% true. Hyunwoo was showing off the new tech innovations we developed for community safety. Our legal team was networking with politicians. Our social workers were celebrating wins. This was my family now. Not just Jin-sung, one chick, and Hyunwoo, but everyone we'd brought together in service of something bigger than ourselves. Later that night, I found a quiet corner and pulled out my phone. I scrolled to a contact I'd saved but never used, Valencia Brennan. He'd died 8 months ago. Peacefully, according to the lawyer who'd sent the notification. He'd left me one final letter, delivered after his death. I'd never opened it. Until now.
Valencia.
If you're reading this, I'm gone. I hope I got to see you one more time before the end. I hope you know that every day I lived after abandoning you was colored by regret. I'm not asking for forgiveness in death that I didn't earn in life. But I want you to know that watching you from afar, reading about the Phoenix Foundation, seeing you become exactly who your mother knew you'd be, that was my redemption. Not earned, not deserved, but real nonetheless. You broke the cycle, Valencia. The cycle of abandonment, of cowardice, of choosing comfort over courage. You're building something that will outlast all of us. Something that matters. I'm proud of you. I have no right to be, but I am. Live fiercely. Love completely. And know that somewhere, your mother is watching you with the kind of joy that transcends death.
Isaiah.
I folded the letter carefully and tucked it away. Forgiveness, I'd learned, wasn't a single moment. It was a choice you made over and over again. I forgave Isaiah for being broken. I forgave my younger self for believing his brokenness was my fault. I forgave the world for being complicated and messy and unfair. And then I got back to work. Because that's what phoenixes do. We rise from the ashes of what destroyed us, and we build something beautiful from the ruins. My mother had been a phoenix. The Yongsan Three had been phoenixes. And now, so was I. The little girl abandoned on a curb had become a woman who made sure no child would ever be left behind again. The daughter of a coward had become a leader who chose courage. The victim had become an advocate. I transformed pain into purpose, trauma into strength, abandonment into belonging. And I was just getting started. Standing on that rooftop, surrounded by the family I'd chosen and who'd chosen me, I made a new promise. Not to my mother this time, but to myself. I would use every ounce of power, every resource, every lesson learned from pain and privilege to build a world where kids like me didn't just survive, they thrived. Where being different was power, not weakness. Where promises meant something. Where family was defined by love, not blood. The Phoenix Foundation was just the beginning. We had work to do. And I had 3 brilliant, dangerous, devoted men behind me who'd promised my mother they'd give me everything I needed to change the world.
Time to keep that promise.
Valencia's journey from abandoned to untouchable shows us that family isn't about who gave birth to you. It's about who shows up when the world turns its back. If this story moved you, if you've ever felt like you didn't belong anywhere but found your people anyway, drop a comment sharing your story. And subscribe to Ebony and Pearl Stories for more narratives about love, power, and the families we choose. Because everyone deserves to know they're not alone.